Welcome to this summer solstice rune reading. Thank you for joining me. When I first took an overview of the three runes, I felt a sense of upliftment because this is indeed a rune reading that is in tune with the summer solstice, with the energy and the theme of making the most of growth, of making the most of the capacity to expand those things that are good, in the same way that as the peak of summer arrives in the Northern Hemisphere, we know that nature is going to do its bit to ripen everything that needs to ripen so that it will be ready for the early harvest or the harvest further on into the autumn, depending what it is that is actually growing and developing, and also, of course, the location in the Northern Hemisphere. So to come back to the runes, I was delighted to see Pioth, or otherwise known as Verpitli, which is the name I use most, at the centre of this reading, because although the other runes are, of course, important, because with this kind of reading, which only covers the period from the 21st of June to the end of July, I don't read them as past, present and future. I read them together, as I sometimes do if I'm working with a client, and in certain situations I would read all three of them together. But so the central rune is about the willingness to try something new, the willingness in a way to go on the kind of adventure that nature goes on at this time of year. Because we're talking about trusting in the power of the universe, having faith that life will somehow find a way. But in the same way that we have to nurture and farm and follow the processes that nature is unfolding, we also have to put effort into expanding the best that is in us so that we can harvest that. And that applies to individuals as much as it does to groups, societies, or the wider world. Because when we have an intention and take action, then the universe does respond in some way. And we have to remember also, the results are not always going to be exactly what we expect. For example, in my homeland of the United Kingdom, the cherries are ripening at the moment. And we know that, of course, on a cherry tree, we will find cherries, but they can be varying shapes, and yet they are still cherries. And sometimes you even get a cherry that is like two cherries combined into one. And that is just the wonder of nature as it unfolds. So Verpitli always reminds us also not to have too tight an expectation, to set an intention, to create action, to form goals. All are good, but to remember to embrace that which comes up, even if it is a little different to how we expected, and to see what we can make out of that, rather than just saying, well, that wasn't what I wanted. To look and see, can this unexpected thing be changed into something that you would actually relish, that you would really enjoy? Or can it teach you something about how you need to move on, or how you need to appreciate life differently in some way? There is always something to be gained, even from those things that we simply don't like, that we wish had never happened, that we say to ourselves, I wish I'd done that so differently, because it had big implications. Well, we can't go back and change it, can we? But we can go forwards And that's what the solstice is all about, nurturing that power, that fire of life, and going forwards. And in many parts of the world, around the Baltic region, but in many different places, the summer solstice is still celebrated, at least as part of the cycles of nature. And of course, sometimes in a much older and a much deeper way. So to look at the other runes that work together, we have Avas, also known as Ur, and Erhal. Erhal means yew or eel, and it means yew, the yew tree. And there is a reason for that. I always say that the names, in whichever language they come from, they do operate in many ways as keys to meaning. And this is about discerning and defining purposes and targets, choosing them wisely. The analogy I would use with Ur is of a journey taken by horseback in olden times, when we did indeed have to think, where would the horse eat and drink? Can it carry everything I want to put on its back, as well as me, or am I going to have to walk alongside? And really, is this going to be a worthy journey? Is it worthwhile? And these are all good questions to ask ourselves with anything we attempt in life. But I think especially around the summer solstice, when we're in a way galvanizing the power that has developed to its fullest, and to see where that can take us, and of course where we want to take it. And this rune is a good balance to the one in the centre, because the one in the centre can be very spontaneous, dealing with the spontaneous, dealing with the unexpected that comes to us in response. For example, another analogy I would use with Verpitli would be throwing out a boomerang, knowing that something is going to come back, trusting that it will be something good, but not knowing exactly what. And the balance that comes from Avas is very much about choosing, about setting purposes and targets and goals. And this is for individuals as well, and always reminding us that it's important to consider our scope for joy when we're developing any goal, because all work and no play does not bring out the best in us. Although, of course, sometimes we're in a hard-working phase. And this is, in a way, a hard-working phase out there in the world. But also, I feel, where the worthiness of many goals in a worldly way and courses of action in many parts of the globe will come up for reconsideration. Are they worthy, or are they wasteful? Are they going to bring a good harvest, or are they not? I feel these are all hard questions that will be hanging in the air, not just around the summer solstice, but especially in the final days of June. And as I'm speaking about this, I'm very much taken to talk about the reading that I did on the Ukraine peace talks and their development, which the development phase has yet to take place, although the phase of pulling back from the talks has, it seems, taken place. Certainly in a public way. Of course, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, do we? But I published that video on the 25th of March, and it may be a good one to look back at, because there is a crossover here, I feel, with this time when everything becomes, very tight, more challenging. And yet there is scope for improvement, scope for evolution that we perhaps didn't see coming, But at the same time, there is this consideration of, right, what is the best way? What is a worthy goal here? What is the least wasteful way? And of course, the least wasteful way also does need to consider, I'm sure, the loss of life, the terrible loss of life that's taken place in Ukraine. But I'm coming back now away from Ukraine, and I want to come back to the rune on the right and the theme of the solstice. Malva, man, manas, mankind, service to mankind, has appeared on the right. And this shows that these factors are very prominent around the time of the solstice, very prominent going forwards. But Manas also speaks about the expression of our own unique gifts, both as individuals and also those gifts that can be used in a more collective way to bring enrichment, to bring betterment, to bring healing, to bring caring. And I feel that there is more of this sort of prominent in the discussion that is going on, not just in people's minds in prayer, because they know that we all know that it is needed, but there is something here that it becomes more important. The lens is focused on it in a stronger way around the summer solstice and in the days that come after, and in the time that this reading prevails over up to the end of July, and hopefully persisting beyond that, because these are lovely qualities to have uppermost in our thoughts and present in a stronger way in our everyday lives and in the world about us. So to sum up, there is a strong sense of the need to have trust and faith that the best qualities that we can bring forwards are going to are going to flourish and be present to be harvested in our lives and in the life about us. But at the same time, there is the upliftment, the fire, the energy, taking that fire of summer and carrying it with us, carrying it beautifully, carrying it gently, but knowing that it is there within our hearts and minds, and knowing that those qualities are out there in the world, and they will come to meet the thoughts of nurturance that we put out, amplifying this lovely quality of nurturance, amplifying love and caring, if we will but allow. And it does feel at the moment as though life is bringing a lot of harsh experiences in many places, and those experiences cannot really, in a media age, be kept separate from our everyday lives. And yet, holding on to the peace within is a precious thing. Knowing that when we are in moments of sorrow, because of what is happening around us, that there is a source of strength. There is something in life that wants to unfold something better. And this is very much in tune with what is happening. But we have to reach out to it, both as individuals and in groups. There is this sense of reaching out. There is this feeling of a tide turning between the last days of June and going through July. It is a strong feeling, a strong intuition that I have about this. And I wish you a very happy summer solstice with beautiful celebrations and lots of upliftment. Now, if you're interested, I do offer personal rune readings and also mediumship readings and hypnotherapy sessions. All of these can be available online, where they work equally well as they do in person. And in the Reykjavik area, in-person sessions are available. You can find further information and details on my website, K Cook Spirit Wings. And for hypnotherapy, I have a separate website, K Cook Hypnotherapy. Thank you for joining me today.